Hey everyone, I'm Eric Lichwager, host of the Quick Chop Show, and thanks for tuning in for another episode. Tonight we're doing a great set of lamb loin chops. It's kind of like what I call a rosé deglaze on it. Instead of using a heavy red wine, we're going to actually use a lighter style rosé. Keep watching and let's get chopping. Quick Chop is provided by Mission Grocery Outlet in San Francisco. When you open up your lamb packages, these are generally cut at the meat cutters when they're semi-frozen and they're using a saw. What I like to do is just to kind of clean them up a little bit. I'll just take my paring knife and then just kind of scrape it just a little bit. You may pick up some of that residue from the saw. It's just a tidiness thing. Some of the bone marrow kind of comes off. Nothing wrong with this stuff. It's just a cleanliness thing. Again, I got this on the parchment paper. When I'm shifting between meats and vegetables, I've got the same cutting board. It just tends to keep things a little cleaner. I'll also usually inspect the fat along the outside. If it's a little too thick, I might trim it down just a hair. Or if there's any kind of membrane hanging around on there, I'll trim that as well. These all look pretty good. There's not excessive fat on there, so I'm not going to worry about that too much today. We can salt on it directly like that, but one of the things I like to do is we're going to herb and salt and crust the edges, the outsides. Some of your diners may like more salt, some less. And if you kind of salt the edges of it, if they don't want too much sodium, they don't have to eat that part. They just kind of can trim it off. It's a nice touch, I think. Prepare a little of the rosemary. It's strong. A lot of times we just use it as a seasoning and we're not actually going to eat it. If you cut it finely enough, it's quite nice. So you're just gonna take your knife, just take some very tiny mincing, because rosemary's kind of tough. It's not real easy to chew into. When you're wiping your knives, I wipe them all the time. Take your knife like this, lay your pad out or your towel, throw your knife in with the backing into the towel. Just pinch down, draw it out. You won't cut yourself this way. It's really a safe way to do it and you can get right up on the blade. So what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna kind of just lay this rosemary on the table here and kind of spread it out. And then I'm gonna crush some salt on there. This is flake salt. Okay, a little pepper. Now, generally the meat is sticky enough. I'm just gonna kind of roll this and dab it into that salt mixture along the edges. As you can see, we get a nice little coating on the edges here and not too much going on the meat fibers itself. Lamb fat renders down pretty well, so those are pretty much ready to go. Olive oil is kind of a finishing oil. It doesn't stand up to high temperatures, and we're gonna be cooking in the broiler, so there are gonna be some high temperatures. So we're not gonna start off with the olive oil, we're gonna finish with it. All right, so we're gonna go back to our little trick here of checking temperature on the pan with just a little bit of oil. So I'm using a cast iron pan because what we're gonna do is we're gonna sear it real quickly on one side in the pan on the stovetop, and then we're gonna finish it in the oven. Water's just about evaporated. I'm gonna add some grapeseed oil. A higher flash point can tolerate the temperatures. Just a word of caution though, just make sure that all your water is gone out of the pan before you add the oil in there. It's not critical, but you might not like the results. Just get the pan nicely coated. Whenever we're putting things in, lay away. So. Don't overcrowd the pan. This is enough for 2, but if you're cooking for 4, better to do 2 rounds, even transfer to a different pan for the oven. If you overcrowd it, you're gonna drop the temperature of the pan too much. It's not gonna get a good searing on it. Just drop the residual of that rosemary down in there. Okay. Probably in that oven about 7 minutes. That's on a high setting of the broiler, about 500 degrees in there. It depends how well you like your lamb. I prefer mine fairly rare. I'm just gonna prepare a little bit of garlic. Really just salt and pepper and a little bit of rosemary in there. You're slicing garlic, just you got the attachment point, and I just kind of put my thumb there and then just rest the knife on your knuckles and just slowly just kind of take that kind of motion to it. Let me just pull that out and check it. Yeah, it's still pretty pink. I'm just going to flip these a little bit. I'm just going to throw on that diced garlic in there, flavor it up. Now I'm going to put it back in the broiler about another 2 minutes. If you're not used to cooking with lamb, try different cuts. One of the things I like to do a lot of times, and in fact I've done this just recently, is just when you're in the butcher, find out what other people do with that particular cut of meat. There's so much information out there, it's incredible. Expand your palate, expand your horizon a little bit. Break out of that normal stuff that you do. You may find something that you really, really enjoy to do. All right. Really important, this pan's really hot. So do something to remind yourself that that's hot. And I usually will lay a towel over it. You're in the kitchen doing things and you turn around, you go grab that thing, you're gonna have a nice little second-degree burn. Just gonna touch that. They're firm, not overly firm, but I gotta pull them out of the pan. If I leave them in that super hot pan, they're gonna continue to cook and you're gonna end up with well done when you don't want that. So, just taking these out. You can let most of the garlic just kind of hang behind, it's fine. These are gonna rest because they're really tight. When you cook something like that, the fibers get really tight. If you start cutting into them, you're gonna lose all the liquid out of them. This is gonna be our glaze, so we're gonna keep that in there. Flame's still on. Now I'm using a rosé. You can use other wines, but for this recipe, we're going for a light finishing glaze on these things, so we're just gonna add about 50 milliliters or so of rosé. A little pepper, a little bit of champagne vinegar, just a touch. Now a little bit of our olive oil, just extra virgin. So I added some olive oil. We've still got the fat in there. I'm just gonna add a little extra fat in the form of a couple of cubes of butter here. About a tablespoon or so. Our whisk out, we're just gonna kind of start moving this stuff around and reduce this down. I add the fat, it's optional. I just add it because it helps kind of bind things together a little bit. The oils are gonna come off that rosemary in your glaze, and just as it starts thickening up, probably getting pretty close about the time you want to turn the flame off. Touch our lamb, and it's actually softened up slightly, so that's what you want. This is a Nebbiolo dAlba. Probably about a $30 bottle of wine. We picked it up Mission grocery outlet for, I think it was like $11.99. It's a 2009. Some of the other grocery outlets may have it too. So older wines, when you start getting into these older vintages, careful with the corks. They'll start to get a little fragile, so that last half pull, get gentle on it. And you can see it's nicely soaked, good coloration, looks good. Now, older wines will have a more rust color to them. They won't have that big, bright vibrancy, and I can tell just by pouring that in there. That's exactly what we're gonna get. So the fruit should have toned down, the tannins should have softened, the terroir will start to really show, dried fruit. Wow, that'll go really nicely with this lamb. Still got some good tannins to it, a little bit of acidity, still good. It's got that raisin punch to it, which I love. I love that. All right, so lamb looks just about ready here. Our sauce is done. Because of the wine and a little bit of the vinegar, it's got some acidity to it, which is actually gonna complement the lamb really well. Lamb's one of my favorite meats to cook with. Just finish that off. Garnish that with a little bit of mint. So now we're going to just finish this off and garnish it with a couple of sprigs of fresh mint, which is always a nice compliment to lamb. Then you could have even add this to your glaze if you wanted. One last thing is a little bit of zest of the lemon. So we're just going to take that and put that, not too much, just a little bit. And there you have it. There's your fresh lamb, loin chops with a rosemary and rosé wine demi-glaze, and finished with some mint and lemon zest. Hope you liked it. We're going to give it a taste here. So I think that's perfectly cooked, nice even throughout. That's why I like to start with the hot pan. Yeah, that glaze, it's nice. It's that nice acidity. It just perfect goes along with that lamb. Great pairing right there. Okay, so that's your fresh lamb with a rosé demi-glaze with rosemary and rosé wine. I hope you enjoyed it. Give us your comments, tune in at newsupnow.org, and really appreciate you watching. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.